Let's start the interview. We have Gaurav Goyal. He has a working experience of 13 years, and currently he's working in controller with Cargill India, agriculture commodity company. So let's start the interview with Harshit. So Harshit, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So, my first question to you is what, according to you, are the most valuable characteristics of an auditor?
Of an auditor. Oh, yeah, it's a good question. So, from an auditor perspective, my answer for being a very good auditor will be firstly, you should be understanding your role. Like, for what purpose you're going to an organization rather than jumping into your overall conclusions. So, you should be very well understanding your role, have those interpersonal skills. Audit is all about communicating with people, knowing their backgrounds. First of all, know their background, from where they come from, with whom you are auditing this stuff, right? From where they come from, what is their background, how experienced they are within the same field for what they are getting the audit done, and all those stuff. So the interpersonal skills with the auditee becomes one of the key components that will ease out your work. And thirdly, be empathy. So that I have learned over a period of time, let's say. So when we go for an audit, we feel and we see the auditee as a criminal. So that shouldn't be the case. They have been doing their hard work. They have been trying to provide you with the support and stuff, and that is how we need to be also treating them. So I think behavioral is a very big component along with some technical knowledge around it. Your behavioral becomes very important once it comes to the audit world.
Okay, sir, that was very informative. My another question to you is what is the most important step in auditing according to you?
Steps as
Steps as in, sir, verification of documents or vouching or
okay, so in terms of the overall process that we follow during the audit. So from an audit standpoint, the first important step should be you should be collecting the data, converting them into an informative way, so that you can use that data and then reevaluating that data set along with the relevant documents. So you should be pushing for the relevant documents and not all the documents. You should be able to make out, okay, these are the set of documents. Just to simplify, for an example, if you're trying to vouch for a sales, so there are multiple processes that follows for a sales. You need to do a cutoff procedures, wherein the cutoff procedure suggests any sales which has to be booked in the last financial year is not booked in the next financial year. So for that, there are supporting documents in terms of the transit documents. So if you see any transit document dated, let's say 30th of March, for a period wherein the sales has been recorded on 5th of April, that becomes very important to do a cutoff testing. The second important documents for kind of an example are the transit document. Whenever you do an audit, the major commodity trading will have all those sales and purchase around it, right? So all those transit documents really become important. So those are the major steps. You should be having a clear understanding of the business you're auditing along with the document set that you require, and which document set is essential and which document set is just for an additional support for your comfort, for your filings and all those stuff. And you should be able to do a good audit around that.
thank you so much, sir, for lots of information that you shared. Now I'll hand over the question portal to Bhavya.
Okay, so my question is like if you're auditing some company and there are some conflicts, like there are interest of conflicts, and you're not the company has lot of different parts in business. So how do you resolve the conflicts if there are any some miscommunication or misunderstandings?
So resolving a miscommunication or a conflict between the companies or what?
It is especially resolving the conflicts of interest to check that companies working in ethically or ethically. That's it.
Okay, so what should an auditor do when once they find out something is missing in terms of the
Yeah.
ethical or the compliance which they are supposed to do? So I think that is the biggest concern in the world we operate as of now. The ethical way of working or a compliant way of working in this world, right? So you will be when you will be auditing a lot of companies and a lot of firms, you will be finding all those issues wherein you will see a conflict of interest. So, with my personal experience, what I can say is when you see a conflict of interest or a non compliant company, there could be two situations. Firstly, they already know about it. And secondly, that is something that you have brought into their notice or in terms of the management notice. Like, so you will see a behavioral change from the audit itself. They will try to convince you, they will try to maneuver you, but yes, it will be your responsibility. In a way, you shouldn't be harsh also. Maybe a case, your responsibility as an auditee, as a fresher auditee should be, you should bring up that case to your management team, to your internal management team, that is to say from the auditor side, your partners, your management team or your leaders, and then let them handle that case to be handled along with the auditing, rather than you going full throttle with the auditee saying, okay, no, this is non-compliant and this is not the way you should be doing this stuff. You have identified that's good enough point. Don't drop that point first of all. Bring it up with your managers and learn how they tackle it with the clients. So everything is not a case like if we have found some kind of a non-compliant or some kind of an irregularities within the operation that the business does. Uh, Auditor role is to identify and report, but sometimes we need to find a middle path or a golden path wherein the compliance can be made good of and the auditee can still continue to do their business. And as an auditor responsibility, you can just put a qualification or a half remark stating this was something which we have found and we are trying to report this.
Okay, so my second question is, can you tell me like any incidents that happened during an when you are auditing a company and you found something, irregularities, and how do you talk, how you convey it to the managers or something? How do you resolve it?
Okay. So let me take not from an auditee perspective, from an internal control perspective also. So I am the lead for internal control with my current organization, and this remains highly confidential. So I won't name it, but I won't quantify it. But there were certain irregularities which were found 2 months back as a part of the internal audit. So just to give you an example, we were kind of auditing or preparing a report for the travel and expenses which all the employees spends out. So what we found out was out of the set of 4,000 employees what we have in the organization, there were a certain set of employees who have identified a loophole within the organization. So the loophole was they already knew all those travel bills when they submit it on the portal gets automated and automatically approved and paid to your account. And as a part of the policy, there are limits. So let's take an example. You can claim your internet bill. So every employee can claim an internet bill to the tune of 1,000 rupees. But the system was allowing to claim an internet bill on a particular date for 1,000 rupees. So some of the employees found out that loophole, and what they started doing is, because those were auto approved without managerial approval, they started claiming it for every week for 1,000 rupees, dating it separately. So instead of 1,000, we ended up paying 4,000 to each and every employee. So there were a list of employees; those were prepared for smaller amounts. A soft warning was given, but there were employees who were identified wherein this scam was into lakhs, and those were the employees along with their managerial teams were asked to leave. So sometimes we need to take soft actions and sometimes we need to take hard actions. So people who had carried out those instances once or twice were given still a benefit of the doubt that was an error that was committed by them. But when we found out few of those employees or few of those teams who were seasoned enough in this kind of a scam, those people were immediately fired with a negative remarking to the employees, and no reference has now been given to their futuristic roles and all those stuff. And this is not simply a case of internet bills. These scams were running into taxi bills, the food bills, the travel bills, the airline bills, everywhere. So it was a big issue which was identified, and we needed to ensure the confidentiality of this kind of an issue as well, because that is not a very good marking on overall organization reputation. And once one of the employee knows this is something that is happening within the organization and people are starting to getting fired, everyone becomes quite aware of it, and the panic button starts in the organization. So it was quite a teams, HR teams, legal teams, finance teams, investigation teams, internal audits that were involved, coordinated and ensured within a span of 6 months the clean out happens, and a strong warning from the leaders to the all the teams member If we find certain instances in near future, both the team member and the respective manager will be fired. So that kind of an corrective actions as well as harsh action needs to be taken sometimes when we find the organizations or the employees within the organization to be very much non-compliant.
Thank you. Now over to Tina.
Good
Right,
morning,
Tina?
sir. And hello, sir. So the question I have is like, have you had any instances where like maybe a close friend or like a knowing company asked you to do something unethical, and like how did you confront it?
No, I don't think I have faced that kind of an incident. The only piece of unethical, I won't call it an unethical, but a conflict of interest will be wherein someone asked you to get someone joined within an organization bypassing certain rules and regulations that has already been established within an organization. From an unethical point of view, it's not about close friends, but yes, I have faced multiple instances where I have been in a dilemma, like how we need to get out of that situation, mainly with our government officers. So when we deal with our government officers, the departments officers, there are certain set of or the areas wherein they make you uncomfortable, and sometimes they demand directly to settle out a case or to drop a case. They will demand directly what needs to be paid as a part of the overall process. So those are the situations wherein you can always say we will come back to you. You can always report back to your management, stating like, okay, this officer asked about $5,000 or something like that to drop out the case, and more or less either you win it via good means or you drop the case via odd means. You end up paying the liability. That's up to you, and it depends upon the organization to organization. But I didn't find myself in any of the situations wherein I ended up paying some kind of a bribe or something for an at least from a corporate standpoint. But yes, I have been in a situation where the same has been demanded face to face from me in a closed room. So it has been multiple situations like that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so what about like if you have faced any interest, like conflict of interest within your audit team or anything, like how did you resolve it?
So conflict of interest, as in to say, when you know the people from the auditor side, or something like that, or what?
Internal audit team or like external party, like anything.
Okay, so not conflict of interest, but an overall conflict. So this is also very very new chapter to my career. So last week itself, I was in Bangalore, and the purpose of visit was we had a very bad fight with our auditors last time they were here for audit. So we were not mutually agreeing on a lot of stuff that they were expecting from our side, and we were not ready to submit a lot of data, which for us was not required enough for their audit perspective. So we ended up there was a conflict, a big conflict, both from, and they said like we won't be signing your financials, and we were like, to hell with it. If you don't want to sign it, we will take it up with the KPMG Global. So KPMG is our auditor. So the issue became really bad. There were a lot of people from the leadership side that got involved. And finally, we resolved it via one of the sessions, in-house sessions, face to face with each other. So it was a 3-day workshop kind of a thing wherein the externals were hired to make sure the people work together in a collaborative manner so that we don't end up with the similar situation for the current year financials. From a conflict of interest, I think the best way to resolve a conflict of interest is you flag it out as soon as possible rather than thinking around it whether how I need to tackle it. So if you feel like you can't tackle it alone, always and best option is to flag out that conflict of interest to your seniors so that it shouldn't be a situation later on wherein they ask you like why didn't you come up to me when you already knew about this stuff. This is the best way of doing a compliance and an ethical way of auditing.
Thank you, sir. So I like to pass it on to Shweta.
Yeah, hi Sweta, morning.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask, as like AI is taking up a lot of jobs today, so do you think it's going to affect auditors in any aspect?
That's a very, I will say, burning question as of now within the overall setup in what we operate. AI, yes, a very good and a very powerful thing that is coming our way. But I I will say as of now there are opinions around it. rather than the actual results of evaluations, how AI is going to impact our day-to-day work. AI has started. Even in our organization, we have started using AI. Very, very limited. I was going through an article, and this is all about red articles. You can also find it on one of the, I am not too sure what forum I was reading it. AI, when asked to the 100 leaders, the 100 great leaders of India, what is the impact of AI? 65% and above have said there won't be much of an impact as per their evaluation. But yes, there are 35% of the leaders who are saying there will be an impact of jobs on AI. So what I can suggest is you learn AI along with your current skill sets. That will be the need of the hour. So AI is not totally, completely wiping off the jobs within the industries, within anywhere. The manpower is the biggest power, and it will remain the biggest power in whatever development, in whatever strength we have in the digital or the automation world. The manpower strength will always remain above them. So AI is good, but there will be people who will be required to manage those AIs. So everyone is not that learned, everyone is not that educated, everyone is not that smart to use that AI tool to make sure those gets implemented to our day-to-day life. Just an example, we started with a keypad of mobile, we are into the smartphones, and not everyone within the smartphones. My personal take is we use smartphones only for the 10% of their capabilities. Smartphone, if you symbolize it as an AI, so maybe a generation, Gen Z generation might be using it for 20% of their work. A generation behind them, a millennium generation might be not be using for that purpose also. And maybe for the generation of our mothers and fathers, they will be using it only for calling or maybe some of the social apps. So the full potential of AI to the overall blessing to the overall industry will come to the span of, I think, at least 1.5 decade to 2 decades. So AI is around the corner. It is tapping, but it will take time.
Thank you so much, sir. Also, sir, can you share some example from your audit experience, which you think was like a really tough or like extreme example for you, which you want to share with us?
So as I shared, the last year was the toughest. So we were on the other side of the table. We were the, so usually I have never I have been only an auditor for an year, and rest of the years I have been an auditee. So that is to say, like I am on the other side of the table, but I know what kind of an expectation is from the auditor side. So last year I will say was the toughest year, wherein the issue went beyond the sharing of the information or the sharing of the data, and it became a bit of personal. Heated emails were exchanged, people were not able to cooperate, and we ended up facing a situation wherein instead of signing our financials in September, we ended up signing them in March. So only a month back, we ended up signing our financials along with a delegated session of workshop that was assigned to each and every one of them who were involved in audit, and that is part and parcel of life. So sometimes you need to also take a stand as an auditor as well as an auditor. That is what is the learning is all about.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to share the mic with Nikunj.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Morning,
Uh, so, I
Nikunj.
have, so I have three questions for you. So the first one is like auditing firms also provide consultancy services to the company that is getting audited. So is there any ethical dilemma where you have faced ethical concerns and your independence and objectivity has come into a threat?
Yes, surely there are certain instances, and it's a very good question. So, in the finance world, the auditors don't fetch that much money. So, audit happens only once in a year. That has been restricted by the ICAI. What kind of fees you can generate out of the auditee and all those stuff. So, auditee is not, I will say, a very big profit-making tool for an audit firm, right? Then there comes the role of consultancy, and the consultancy runs into number of things, a number of items wherein you can hire consultants, you can get their day-to-day job also outsourced to the consultant and all those stuff. So the expectation is we never keep a person who is auditor to our organization as a consultant, but yes, at the background there might be a conflict. So let's say you are the auditor to my organization, but you have introduced, after auditing my books, you have introduced, let's say, Tina, stating like, okay, she's a very good organization wherein she keeps the books very well. So maybe you can hire them. And because of an kind of a reference, and we understand because auditor will be more confident on Tina's work, we hired Tina as a consultant or maybe a daily bookkeeper for with their firm. So that is how the dilemma is there. But yes, sometimes it eases out the work. And if there is no direct connection on the books, so you can always say you all people like on the call are friends to each other, and you can always refer each other, right? But that doesn't mean there is always a dilemma on the references. Sometimes you get a reference of a quality person also. It's not about always a personal reference. So you know Tina's work or Bhavya's work is very good, and you have referred them to the organization stating, okay, please go ahead, hire them, and you will see the difference. And that is how we proceed. So there is always a dilemma, there is always a scrutiny, because auditor has to be independent auditor. Otherwise, no point of getting the audit done. But yes, to protect that, we make sure the other consultants or other parties are not associated with the auditors directly or indirectly. That is something is ensured. Even by the auditor also, that is something ensured. They can't sign off a report stating wherein they know the director of the companies are related to them. So that kind of a dilemma or that kind of a conflicts are always resolved.
So
But the real world is a bit different from a bookish one, I will suggest. So there is always two way of looking at the coin. So will find such kind of a situations as well, wherein there will be a dilemma and that dilemma will be kept aside and we will be still proceeding with it. So everything can't be put on a white paper. Sometimes we need to be doing stuff which is not expected to be done, but there is not that much, I will say, bucketize and non-compliance and non-ethical. Sometimes we need to keep our eyes closed for certain things.
So my second question is, I had an experience of auditing in my internship last year. So there I noticed that to get the data from the client, it's very tough. So how do you think if blockchain is introduced in the auditing world, how will it change that?
What is introduced?
If blockchain technology is introduced, so like blockchain is kind of a ledger technology, right, where you can store information and the discrepancy in it can be reduced. So how do you think it would help the auditors in reducing the audit time or let's say their workload?
Okay. So, Nikush, there are two ways of looking at it. This is the biggest challenge what is there in the world. Fetching the data from the client is the biggest thing what an auditor highlights, right? We are not able to reach the right person, we are not able to get the right data set, and if the data set is being shared, those are not the information that I'm looking for. The maximum time gets wasted in those stuffs only. So this is also one of the example that I quoted. Last year it was the same thing. So they were expecting certain data of data. We were not ready to share those data. There will be certain reasons of not sharing it, but there is a delay, right? Now coming back to the blockchain technology, that's a good technology to have, right? But that is a costlier technology. We need to see the cost benefit analysis also. Asking a client to hire 2 or 3 more resources during the year who can just be there to prepare audit data. That is never the expectation. The finance teams are getting leaner, as Shweta highlighted. AI is in the picture, but not full-fledgedly, but yes, automation and digitalization is already into the picture. So the finance teams are getting leaner for sure. So only the smart ones or the ones who are being able to show their dedication to the organization stick to the organization. But to use those kind of blockchains and all those stuff, it means for the whole of the year, the teams are performing those same steps. They need to prepare those files, share it in their own data folders, and then share it on the blockchain folder, which will be prepared by KPMG, or maybe this technology comes into the picture from Big Four. Said so, the one which you are asking is already into the existence, the blockchain technology. So this time around, just to give you an example, this is an open thing. KPMG have introduced one of the tools wherein you need not to submit all the data on emails, on hard drives, and all those stuff. You need to upload the data on cloud. So there will be a list of queries, and there is no email exchange between one of the clients. So just to keep a better track of what is happening and a live status of all those stuff, so you will create a project. You will say these are the 15 items I require from your side. These are your stakeholders, and those stakeholders will show pending with those stakeholders. You need to submit a data, write a chat box mail, and say submitted, and that will suggest you have submitted the data. and then it will go to the kitty of auditor again, and then the auditor will raise a query, it will come to your kitty again. So you are live tracking what is happening on the portal itself. So that has been introduced. It's been a first year. We are still facing a lot of challenges with that tool also, because everything can't be thought through. So and people are smart enough to bypass those tools as well. So you have requested for data A, someone submitted data B and marked it as completed. So now after 2 days you are on leave or it was a weekend and the person said, okay, I have already submitted that time. This is what we call is a very common phrase, buying time. So within the organization and specifically during audit, people buy time to provide those data set. And one of the core reason for that is auditor feel like getting the books audited is the core work of the finance, but that is not true. The team needs to manage their day-to-day workings as well. So your team might be having 8 hours or 10 hours a day, but those people are having only 3 to 4 hours a day, or not even that in on some days, and then they need to manage their regular jobs along with the auditing jobs. So that is where the gaps comes into the picture. So most of the organization has started keeping an audit coordinator within their organization, and now with the smart tools coming up around, I think we should be good. In near future, all those dispute that I have shared the data but you haven't seen, this is not pending with me, please show me the mail when the last time the request was raised, all this will go away because you will have a live tracking. Very good. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I would like to hand over the mic to Prasang now.
Hey, hi Prasang.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Okay, sir. I feel like most of the valuable question has already been asked by my peers. But see, as we know that auditing requires a very financial skills, or can say it requires a technical skills. So, what are soft skills, or what are other skills which is requirement for this field?
Come again, I didn't get your last part. What are the
What is other qualities which is required by the auditor? Except financial and technical skills.
So the key skills that you have already highlighted, you need to have a good eye for the financials, right? But the best part of doing an audit is you need to have an analytical skill also. You should be knowing the industry in which the organization operates. What are the overall statistics of that industry? Compare it with the organization you are auditing. So that kind of ratios, analysis, comparatives, that is the reason even our financials have 2 year data set. Otherwise, it will be a plain vanilla to validate this year information. What you will do is you have a number, you have a document set along with you. You will just validate numbers with the document set, and that doesn't make sense. This is an activity you will perform and you will learn for the couple of years of your career. But that activity will go off, and you will be more into data analysis and comparatives and all those stuff, ratios, and that will help you really analyze the data. So you should be having a great eye on those analytical skills of auditing financials.
So you mentioned the analytical skill, but I believe that it comes under the technical skill. So,
Technical skill, I will say technical analytical skills sometimes work for all the industries. Technical is when you are more into that industry, you have the knowledge of audits, you have the knowledge of taxation, that is okay. Like you have the complete knowledge about those things, right? Add them up with this kind of a brushed up skills of your technical, right? Knowing how to analyze that data. And every industry, so maybe an industry, let's take an example of a ratio. So when you say a DSO, daily sales outstanding, right? A particular industry might be having a daily sales outstanding of 90 days. The second industry has a daily sales outstanding of 3 days. That doesn't mean this industry is performing bad and that industry is performing good. It is more about their connected to the market of their data of their industry. So that is how you compare a lot of things within the financials along with the overall presentation of that financials. So over a period of time, when you keep on auditing a lot of different industry, different firms, that skills of comparing those things, what you have learned from those financials and implementing into this financials will automatically come to your way. And sometimes I have seen people who are smart enough and they start asking those right questions from day one, maybe in their first year of articleship, internship, or maybe first year of their jobs. Their questions are to the point, very direct, like, okay, this is something I feel like is not correct. So you must have vouched for every sales transaction that has been there in the organization, but you see a real spike in the number of sales what has happened this year. So you go back to the management and ask them what were the industries performing this year, how your sales have grown, whether you have any futuristic plans around it, or whether you have increased the capacity of what you can produce and what we can sell, whether there is an infused capital within the organization, or whether their catalyst of a risk has gone high, or they have started trading on credits. So there are multiple factors wherein you start evaluating why. So just for a sales number that has gone up, there could be n number of reasons, and you need to check box every reason. Okay, whether the company has started selling on credit. When you start selling on credit, there you attract a market. Whether the market was good overall in this year, whether the company have increased the capacity, whether there is a risk that the company has now changed, or maybe one of the biggest factor, whether the management has changed this year. So the new person or the new MD coming in has a different ball game altogether. He wants to play it differently, and he wants to go big guns. He has big plans. He has invested in the pipelines and all those stuff. So a lot of factors. But yes, that is something. If you keep on interacting with those people, keep your checklist ready. Don't stick yourself to the financial numbers only. Always, as an auditor, or always in order to learn, go back, sit with their managers, and ask all these relevant questions. Forget about, okay, your sale is 100, why 110 is coming in your financial, why there is a delta of 10 rupees. That can be still resolved. Someone will resolve that 10 rupees delta. But ask them why your sale is 100 or why your sale is 110. Why can't you grow further? Who are the competitors within your market? Why those competitors are doing good? Whether they have an in-house capacities and all those stuff, whether they have funding and all those stuff, you will learn a lot from those questions.